Hey there, Internet. Yes, I am back. Ginger's back from a couple of week little vacation here for another episode of Fighting the Void. Crystal, of course, is back. She and Red did an admirable job of filling in for a week whilst I was gone. And
Yes, starring Lucas.
and Lucas, who showed up to take substantial amounts of abuse from Crystal and Red.
I mean,
That was just an added bonus for everybody.
he knew what he was getting into. It's fine. It's fine. No one worry about him.
No one worry about him. Just have you gotten him to say the word penis yet? That's what we really need to concern ourselves with.
He has, at least not on camera, he has not said the technical medical term for the male genitalia as of yet on camera.
Well, we'll have to work on that. So while I was gone, the plan was myself and my two oldest kids. We were going to be hiking in the Smoky Mountains. They're going to be doing the Appalachian Trail right through Smoky Mountain National Park. And, well, it didn't work out quite the way we wanted. Short version is we were not properly prepared for this. The first day is 12 miles straight up, and that was about it. So we did the first day, then we're like, okay, we're not ready for this. We going back. So that's exactly what we did. We went 12 miles downhill the next day, got ourselves back to the hotel, got an awesome shower, and then my wife suggested, hey, you still got the vacation time. You're down in the strange area of the country where you never go. Take some time and explore. So we did that, and I was actually really tempted to take a little farther south and go visit Crystal, actually. But I was like, I'm going to bore my poor kids to death. So.
How? Okay. Rude.
Okay. My son would have been bored. My daughter would have been fine. She actually would have been good. She actually would have enjoyed the heck out of it.
No. That a woman who calls herself Satan on Twitter is quite the joy to be around. Okay.
Obviously, clearly. So. But we did do some good sightseeing, educational stuff. We weren't far from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where they worked on the Manhattan Project. So we went and did that. Then we drove down to Huntsville, Alabama, where they built all the rockets for the early space program, where I got this kick-butt coffee cup. And then we went a little bit farther north, saw Andrew Jackson's place. We went and saw Abraham Lincoln's birthplace in Kentucky. Fun fact for you, he didn't actually get to Springfield, Illinois until he was 21. So that mental picture you've had of him reading his law books on the floor of his log cabin by candlelight, growing up in Illinois, yeah, not true at all. Complete bullcrap. And that's pretty much how it was taught to me in school. Wrong. Anyway. So that's what I was doing while I was gone. And it was a good time. We learned a lot. We did a lot. Oh, we went to the Louisville Zoo as well. So that was fun. Saw an albino alligator.
Oh.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Well, they called it a white alligator. So I don't know if it's strictly speaking albino or just this really weird, rare species that I don't know, lives in the Arctic or something. So, that's hence the white for camouflage. I don't think that's accurate.
Well, no.
But now I am back. I am well recovered. And joining us for my return episode is Eric Blake. You can find him at Hardboiled Films on Twitter. And he is coming at us from the other end of a dirty aquarium or a smoke-filled room of mystery to discuss the status of the Snyder Cut, what's going on with it. There have been a lot of developments, Eric, haven't there, since we had you on?
Yeah, and let me just say the real mystery right now is how the heck I got into a conversation where you're talking about medical terms for male organs on previous episodes of the show.
Sometimes things just happen. And
Yeah.
Honestly, if even if you're talking about when you had Red on the show, you don't know where the conversation ultimately is going to go.
Yeah. Okay.
It can go.
So I've noticed.
It can go all over the place.
Yeah,
Really.
but
So I've
really, but really, you have my boyfriend to thank for this.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
it seems to be a running joke of whether or not he'll actually say the actual word for it and not just PP.
Right. And to
Oy
be fair,
vey.
Crystal, I mean, you did tell me you weren't going to talk about periods, and I just popped into I just fired up the show while you guys were live, and what were you talking about at that exact moment?
Oh my word.
I have you know that I completely forgot about that conversation, so you can't hold me to it.
Yes, I can.
All right.
It's on the internet. It's forever.
Honestly, I'm just gonna say those kinds of jokes are not funny. Period.
That-
Okay,
Wow.
but regardless,
So
okay.
refresh our memories, and for the benefit of anyone who might be tuning in that is not aware, what is the Snyder Cut for one?
Okay, well, for those of you who don't remember when I last time I showed up, it refers to Justice League, the DC extended universe, the DC cinematic universe, commonly referred to as the DCEU, and it refers to the fact that way back when, I don't necessarily want to recap the whole story because that last I was on that
You're breaking up a lot, Eric.
Yeah.
Recap. Just to be clear to everyone, if everyone only watch the Ultimate Edition of BVS. Don't watch the theatrical cut that does not exist. It's a mess. We all admit it. Pretty much the entire fandom admits it. Some people still like it, but just watch Man of Steel, watch BVS Ultimate Edition, and then but the thing is, the theatrical cut is the theatrical cut. It was released theatrically. That's the version that was stuck in everyone's mind. A lot of people didn't like it. Warner Brothers got it into its head that maybe the problem was it was too dark. Never mind that they then released the Ultimate Edition, and suddenly so many of the people that hated on the movie suddenly turned around and say, hey, this version of the movie is actually pretty good. You should have released that. But of course, Warner Brothers under Kevin Tsujihara, who thankfully is gone now because me too, time's up. But anyway, apparently he fulfills the basic definition of insanity, doing the exact same thing over and over in the exact same circumstance and expecting different results. So anyway, he had David Ayer reshoot much of Suicide Squad to make it more fun. And then, look, remember with BVS, he had Zack Snyder cut out a half hour of Batman v Superman for the theatrical cut. And watching the two versions, it needed those 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Because it's so complex and so multi-layered, it needed every minute of that. So what does he do? Zack Snyder's daughter, this is when he was deep in post-production. He had finished Justice League. Mm-hmm. He finished Justice League's shooting. He ended shooting in October of 2016. He went through 7 minutes of post-production when he finally stepped down because his daughter Autumn tragically committed suicide, and depending on who you ask, whether or not he was fired or not, I don't think he was. I think, he thought, hey, you know what? We're so deep into post-production, the movie's essentially pretty much almost done. They just need someone to oversee everything else coming together. So he steps down, and what does Kevin Tsujihara do? And his team do? They bring him, Toby Emmerich, and all the rest. They bring in Joss Whedon. Kevin Tsujihara imposes a 2 hours even mandate because apparently he thought the problem with BVS was they didn't cut enough out. I guess, I don't know. Well, he says, okay, so he tells Joss Whedon to cut the movie down to 2 hours even and reshoot what you need to reshoot in order to make it flow as a 2-hour movie. So basically he does the same. He combines the mistakes he made with BVS and the mistakes he made with Suicide Squad. Reshoot it to make it more fun and cut it down. to get more screenings, I guess. I don't know. He
and
just because he's a big.
this was a bad idea, frankly, from the get-go.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many different. I can't think of two filmmakers that are much more different than Joss Whedon.
Yeah, and honestly,
I mean, honestly, their styles
and
are
honestly,
completely and utterly different. Trying to
they're
mesh
so
them
different.
together, what?
Yeah, and honestly, and that's why. Look, I used to really like and respect John Campia, but the sign of losing it was like he was insisting, no, this is a great thing. You've got the visual skills of a Zack Snyder and the dialogue and character skills of a Joss Whedon. And I'm like, well, that would have been okay if it were Joss writing the screenplay and Zack directing, but Zack is not directing Joss's stuff. Joss is directing Joss's stuff, and you can see in the movie, a lot of critics were calling it a Frankenstein monster, and it pretty much is, because a lot of those scenes, a lot of the Joss Whedon scenes, if you compare the Joss Whedon scenes and the Snyder scenes, there is such a stark contrast in the visual styles. And as a nice little thing, there is this ongoing series that you can find on YouTube by this YouTuber, by this guy named John Aaron Garza. It's a series he's called it the Justice League Periodic Table. And it's an ongoing series. It's still going on. He's kind of taken a break from it, although I constantly keep pushing him, hey, when are you going to do the next one? Where are you going to do the next one? Where are you going to do the next one, man? He's like, I'm getting on it. I'm on it, guys. Don't worry, I'm on it. But the thing is, what the periodic table, what it is he has gone through the whole movie and analyzed each and every shot of the movie. And he's also and with his knowledge of that and his knowledge of the visual styles of Snyder and Whedon, and also knowing what we know, he's pinpointed what shots are Joss Whedon and what shots are Zack Snyder. And the implications of those discoveries are very telling. And I'll give you an example. If you remember, like when you saw Aquaman, did both of you see Aquaman, by the way? You both see Aquaman?
Chris, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I assume you both seen Justice League, right?
Oh, yeah.
I have.
Okay, you good. All right. Did it ever strike you like, wait a minute, doesn't like Aquaman kind of contradict what we know in Justice League, especially regarding how Arthur views his mother? Because in Justice League, when he's talking with Mira, there's this idea that Arthur blames his mom, Atlanta, who's played in Aquaman by Nicole Kidman. He blames her for leaving, your queen left me on my father's doorstep and never gave me another thought. And Mira is the one who has to tell him she left you there to save your life. But in Aquaman, he knew that ever since he was a teenager, because Volko, like Willem Dafoe, Volko tells him. And he blames Atlantis for what happened. So what's going on? Well, John Aaron Garza's analysis of that scene in Justice League, those exact lines of where Arthur is blaming his mother were either flat out Joss Whedon shots or dubs, Joss Whedon dubs over Snyder scenes. So, yeah, and what was going on is that, look, Zack Snyder and James Wan, when they were working on their respective films, they were in constant contact with each other, talking with each other, making sure that one movie flows from the other. And Jason Momoa himself said that the Snyder Cut flows seamlessly into Aquaman. That like what Zack Snyder sets up in the final moments of in his version of the ending montage in Justice League, amid the ending speech, Heroes Among Los' ending speech, that there's a scene where Volko and Mira talk to Arthur. It says, "Look, we need you to help with us. Like Orm is doing something, and is doing something weird, and we don't know what's going on. We need you to help us." And he's like, "No, maybe later. I'm going to go see my dad." And he drives off. And then Aquaman picks up. He's on the way to see his dad, but he's sidetracked because he has to stop this, check out this submarine. Well, what's going on over there? So Snyder and James Wan were constantly in contact with each other to make sure that one movie flows into the next. But Joss Whedon, he was working under the gun because Sujihara told him to cut the movie down to 2 hours and reshoot what you need to reshoot to make it flow. But we are not going to push the release date. We're going to keep the release date we have. So you only have 5 months to do all of this. Go. And he's under the gun to do all that. So he doesn't have time to converse with it. So he has to rewrite scenes to simplify the storyline. And that's one of those things. That was one of the examples that he had to simplify so much. And so many of the scenes that were reshot, you can pretty much tell they were they're transition scenes that get from one plot point to the next, and they're basically meant to fast forward through the plot.
Well, especially even that very early scene where Batman takes down the parademon.
Yes,
it just self-destructs, and you get for no good reason whatsoever. You get
the mother boxes.
The mother box symbol. He's like, oh my gosh, I have to get everybody together. Okay, why?
I know, right?
What about that at all signifies that now's the time to act? I would think that just having parademons running around Gotham City is quite enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Especially since BVS finished off with him going, okay, there's some crap coming. There's some other metahumans out there. I got to round them up. What?
Yeah,
because right away watching it in the theater, that scene, I'm like, what? What?
Yeah, it's so much. It's an exposition. That scene is an exposition dump. And looking back, it's
exposition dump.
It was a complete one. It's crazy. And and you looking back, it's that was Whedon. And it's again rushing through everything so that the movie will flow in 2 hours.
Yeah, that's just
radical simplification.
Just to get so we can get kind of onto what's been going on. So the Snyder Cut is essentially what Snyder finished before he stepped down, was fired, however you want to put it.
Yeah,
and that's this version that is pretty close to finished. That at this point I think most people that have been following this are in. We can say with confidence that this thing exists.
Yes, absolutely.
Probably needs some post-production work done yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty much done. I remember from talking before that the soundtrack was done on it.
Yes.
Most of the effects were probably done. So it's extremely close to a finished product.
It is
somewhere in a vault.
Yeah, it is very close. As I said, Zack Snyder had more time to do post-production alone than Joss Whedon had time to do all those reshoots, write all those reshoots, film all the reshoots, and then do post-production on that. He had more time to just do the post-production. And keep in mind that that Zack does his heavy CGI scenes first when he's doing his main production. And he also does he goes to the editing room right away when the day shooting is done and look at him and sit, and he writes out, okay, maybe we need to do pickups here, we need to do pickups there, so that he does the pickups he needs to do during the main production schedule, so that they don't need to do reshoots or pickups later on. So with all that in mind, his visual effects guys were working on it during the main production. So visual effects were pretty close to being done, and we don't know exactly how far along. We've heard 80%, maybe 85, 90, maybe pushing it. We're not sure. We've been hearing reports that Junkie XL finished the score, but it wasn't formally edited into the soundtrack when Zack stepped down. But then Joss Whedon chucked him out and brought in Danny Elfman for at whatever reason, because Danny Elfman has pretty much lost his edge lately. His soundtracks have not been interesting for a while. I got to be honest. Yeah, but regardless, so with that in mind, it's pretty much done. I mean, we've been hearing that at most it may need, say, $40 million to get everything spit and polish, ship shape in Bristol fashion and all that good stuff. But even then, it's $40 million. And I've been talking about this with a lot of other folks, that really $40 million is pretty much nothing, a drop in the bucket, as far as especially if Justice League was not theatrically released, as far as I if I recall correctly, it was not released in China. But the thing is, Zach was pretty much anticipating to do that, because movies were not like really pushing for big Chinese release. Not many movies were not that much. But here's the thing. One of the things that in the Snyder Cut that you don't find in the theatrical cut is that when the League goes to Star Labs to bring back Superman, like they found it, they dug up his body, and now they're bringing it to the scout ship. But before that, because Star Labs has been set up around the scout ship, they go in, and Silas is still there. And part of the reason they're able to get in is that Silas sent out like a fake emergency signal, like everyone, we need to go out. So everyone's out except for Silas and Dr. Ryan Choi, also the man who will one day become known as the Atom. That's right.
Wow.
So, and Dr. Choi was apparently played by this young Chinese superstar named Ryan Zhang. He's a singer and actor. He's like pretty big over there.
Okay.
And just all Warner Brothers needs to do to make up that $40 million, release it theatrically in China, and market like heck that, hey, Ryan Zhang himself, who is playing Dr. Choi. And it's not a big role, but it's an important role because he's going to help Silas. They're going to the idea is that they have Clark's body in the lab. They analyze it. And I suspect it's Dr. Choi that makes this discovery because the Atom, he knows subatomic stuff and all that good stuff. I suspect that he's the one who figures this out. They analyze the body and they figure out, hey, you know what? Clark has the codex in his DNA. And that is the proof that if they try to revive him, he will come back as Clark and not as another Doomsday or whatever, because he's got the genetic coding, Kryptonian genetic coding in his veins that they can tap into.
To come up with maybe it's that they work together to come up with a better way to revive him than that.
Yeah,
totally
pretty much.
Fantastic, weird Super Friends method they came up with in the theatrical version.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
easy to.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah,
Throw the mother box in the magic water and have the Flash touch it at the exact instant. It's like, oh my gosh, where did you come up with this nonsense?
Yeah, again, it's like they rush through the plot so that when they show up in that birthing tank, we're supposed to just assume that they know how to do it because, like, it was a Whedon shot. Like when they're in what's supposedly the Batcave, but look in the Snyder Cut, look. That scene in Justice League when they're in the quote-unquote Batcave, there are windows and the sun is shining through. That is not the Batcave.
Clearly not.
No,
Yeah.
what that is, all those scenes that are allegedly in the Batcave, that's a hangar in one of Wayne Enterprises installations, one of Enterprises buildings. And like they go into the hangar because that's where like that experimental troop carrier is and all that good stuff. And they got some. Yeah, but anyway, that scene where they're talking about the mother box was a complete reshoot by Whedon.
Obviously.
The Snyder shot, if you ever seen like in the trailers where they're like standing around a table and Victor's like making this projection onto the table, that was the original scene. And I guess it went on for longer, which is why Whedon reshot it. But in that Whedon reshoot, like you just have Victor saying, I was doing the calculations while you, Bruce, were being an a-hole, blah, 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 blah. And we're supposed to just accept, okay, that's how he knows how to do it. And then they're in the birthing tank. But like in the Snyder Cut, they go to Star Labs, Silas and Dr. Choi analyze the body. It says, okay, he's got the codex. We can do this. And we figured out this is how we do it. And therefore, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole scene, that whole thing made zippo sense whatsoever. I mean, just the whole thing. Well, we've got this magic MacGuffin box, and it's the things that we decided the plot requires it needs to do. Why?
Yeah, but
because reshoots.
Who knows? Yeah, because reshoots. But again, it's like you release this in China. All you need to do is market Ryan Zhang is in this movie and he's got an important part in the movie, and boom, you release it in the Chinese market. China was one of the reasons that Aquaman hit $1 billion. You release it in China with that, boom, you've made that $40 million back and many times over.
Okay, so now when we had you on the show talking about this before, it
Yeah.
was the release of Snyder Cut thing was still at the level of essentially fan, fan clamoring, essentially. There's a petition and everything, but it's I would say it's reached a new level. I believe the Washington Post did an article on it recently. So
yes,
fanboy outcry has reached a level of, from what I understand, I haven't read it myself, but from what I understand, a pretty fair-minded and balanced Washington Post article.
It was great. I
haven't seen anything like this, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, neither have I. Like, we were all astonished. Like, what happened was, like, a few weeks ago, this smaller publication called The Ringer reached out to members of the Snyder Cut. And at first, we were kind of suspicious because the guy who was reaching out to us had written some less than positive reviews of Batman v Superman and so on. So we were all afraid that this was going to be another hit piece, just like that disgraceful hit piece from the Wall Street Journal last year.
Okay.
And we were all afraid, this is going to be another hit piece. But then it's like, checking this out, like we talked with him and all that, it says, this might actually be pretty good. At the very least, good publicity. So we did. The Ringer is actually more of a sports oriented publication, where the readership of The Ringer it's not movie fans or nerds or comic nerds or whatever, like the usual suspects that talk about the Snyder Cut movement. So basically, we were reaching out to jocks now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, and the Ringer article came out, and even though the guy goes into what he didn't like about Snyder's films, he was still, you could tell in the article how much respect he had for the movement now. Like, following us and looking at us, he couldn't help but respect us, especially because of how much we've raised for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Like, it's a matter of honor that whenever we raise money, whenever we do fundraising, like what I'm a big part of right now, the whole Project Comic-Con thing, we always make it a point that half of the money we raise goes to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And that, of course, is in honor of Zack's daughter. And that's a big thing. Like, even if you don't like Zack Snyder, even if you don't like what we're fighting for, you cannot help but respect that and give us that respect. So the Ringer article came out, and we were like, okay, this is actually not a hit piece. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then suddenly we get articles about us from Yahoo. And do you Yahoo? Well, I certainly do now. Yeah, so we got Yahoo.
I don't know. I haven't Yahooed appropriately since 2003, but okay.
Yahoo!
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, personally, I miss the banjo myself. I miss the banjo and that yodel myself, but regardless.
Right.
So Yahoo does a piece on us. Business Insider, especially after the new CEO of Warner Brothers came in, like Ann Sarnoff. She's from BBC America, and we all gave this, we all responded by saying, hey, Ann, welcome to Warner Brothers. And we really hope that you will could show the fans some good faith by releasing the Snyder Cut, maybe, and we're with you to the end of the line if you do that. And Business Insider took wind of that, and then the Washington Post noticed us. And honestly, amid all this time, amid all of this, suddenly we're trending on Google. The search. I don't know what the term for this. Like, how many people are searching us at any given time? Yeah. The search algorithm or whatever is the highest it has ever been. More people are Googling the Snyder Cut than ever before.
Which is impressive. I mean, we're 2 years on now?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That is extremely impressive. And just the fact that you've had this staying power and the drive to keep going with it. And I know also Snyder has pretty much confirmed that, yes, there is a Snyder Cut out there.
Yeah.
I remember he went for Father's Day, he released a shot of Darkseid.
Darkseid. Yeah. Darkseid, voiced by Ray Porter, voiced by the legendary voice actor and audiobook reader Ray Porter, who's got this great voice. And he even did a nice little like advertising for like the thing that I'm a part of, Project Comic-Con, where he like recorded his voice for it, like Project Comic-Con. Release the release the Snyder Cut. And like he used his it quickly used his dark side voice. And to me, it sounds so much like Michael Ironside's voice, just deeper for the Bruce Timm universe. Yeah. But anyway,
Didn't
like
he-
that.
Didn't he also have like a Comic-Con panel make mention of the Snyder Cut, or was that something else?
I don't know. Eric would know more than I do.
Yeah, we might like I do know that as far as the Comic-Con panels are concerned, we know that Warner Brothers is not going to be at Hall H this year, but they're going to still have a booth at Comic-Con, which is going to be interesting. But mainly, I'm just saying that with Warner Brothers not doing Hall H and making like those big announcements at Hall H, that kind of clears the narrative for DC to be dominated by us at Comic-Con, because as I've been saying, I've been like one of the leaders for this big effort for the Snyder Cut movement to hit Comic-Con with this major advertising assault, and we have raised over $25,000 to do this big thing, Project Comic-Con, and it's a multi-layered, multi-tiered advertising effort. Like we've got an airborne banner that's going to be flying around the convention center on Friday afternoon for 2 hours straight. 2 hours straight. Like, I love it. Yeah, it's going to be like Warner Brothers WB # release the Snyder Cut of Justice League, and it's flying around and around and around for 2 hours straight. And we're also having a digital billboard on the highway leading north into San Diego. It's a digital billboard, and it's got one color scheme for night, one color scheme for day for release the Snyder Cut. It's gorgeous, like some great artwork on that thing. Nice. We're also doing, wrap your head around this, the Hollywood Reporter every year does a double-length special issue for San Diego Comic-Con. And we took out a half-page ad for Release the Snyder Cut in that issue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Hollywood Reporter, and which is again, it's indicative that we are in the big league now. Yeah. We are big, we are bold, we are to be taken seriously, we are worth looking at. And we have also cleared and fully funded there's going to be how some bus stops have actual have like full-fledged shelters that and they have advertisements on them. Yeah. There is a shelter that we've secured that's within walking distance of the convention center, but it's in a it's a very like busy public area where we have all of the ad space on this shelter, and it's essentially a great big advertising mural for the Snyder Cut.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in the meantime, we have a strong ground game for Project Comic-Con where like folks in the movement that are going to Comic-Con, they're going to be handing out flyers, they'll be handing out swag, they're going to be handing out cookies, all that good stuff. We're holding signs throughout the floor. It's good. This is going to be glorious. We're going to be creating awareness.
I would be shocked, honestly, if I haven't seen a fan movement, certainly with this much longevity and passion, not be successful. At this point, I think it would be stupid for Warner Brothers to not release it in some form, even if it's in an unfinished form. Just release it on video and call it a day. You could do that. People will buy out. I'd probably buy it and watch it.
Exactly.
Look
at the Donner Cut. The Donner Cut of Superman 2. I mean, you could tell that was pretty much, what do you call it, like jacked together and all that, and kind of like ratcheted together and so on. But it's still great. People watch it, and it was a very successful effort from a fan movement to release the Donner Cut. And by the way, some of the movement, we've actually contacted the folks who headed the Release the Donner Cut movement some years back. It says, hey, have you been following us? And they say, yeah, we have, and we love this.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Yeah,
they could even just do a re-release of like the theatrical of Justice League on Blu-ray with that as a bonus feature. You could easily do
Yeah,
that.
why not?
Or,
I mean, they did that with
yeah.
yeah. I mean, they did that with the original Star Wars, with where one of the DVD versions has the original pre-special edition version of Star Wars, which is the better one because Han shot first.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, or if they really wanted to, especially if they were worried about, recouping the $40 million it might take to give it the necessary spit and polish. In addition to obviously making sure it gets released in China, they could easily do like a double feature type scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
With BVS actually would be the way to do it, or you could do it without. You can make it a triple feature, BVS
and even
BVS, Snyder Cut, and Aquaman if you wanted to.
Yeah. And honestly, even if you didn't want to go to the expense of releasing it theatrically, just do like a release it for digital download. I mean, that would be an interesting way to do it.
Yeah.
I'd be
shocked if they don't do something along those lines, because again, it's been a very successful. It's been a very passionate movement that's got some legs behind it, and if nothing else, it proves that there's fan passion for this.
Yeah,
people want to spend the money on it.
Absolutely. I mean, there is really no excuse for. Yeah, I mean, seriously, there is no excuse to not for not releasing it right now at this point, because Warner Brothers and AT&T, they have to know there's automatic money to be made. Even people who say they hate Snyder and don't want to see it, they are going to see it out of sheer curiosity. Oh, it's a given. No matter what they do, no matter how they release it, no matter how much money they put into it, it will make money. Profit is not the reason for not releasing it. The main reason is that the some of the folks who sabotaged the movie, they were still in power at the time. But of course, one by one, they're all gone. Only Toby Emmerich remains. And I'll be honest, with the new blood coming in, he's on his way out. J.J. Abrams coming in. By the way, J.J. Abrams, A, he was instrumental in getting Sujihara fired, and B, J.J. Abrams and Zack Snyder are actually pretty good friends. Way back, when Zack was working on BVS and J.J. was working on Force Awakens, they were kind of busting each other's balls on Twitter. They were really ribbing and all that. You could tell that they're buddies.
Right.
So, so with that in mind, J.J. Abrams coming in, he got Sujihara fired, and then this new CEO coming in, and Warner Brothers have spent all that money and spared no expense to bring JJ into the family. They will do whatever it takes to keep him happy. And if he says, hey, Ann Sarnoff, there's this better cut that my friend Zach made of Justice League. Why don't you release it? If Emmerich tries to interfere with that and it comes down to it's him or me, you have to make a choice. Do you really think Warner Brothers is going to choose Emmerich over JJ after all the expense they made? No. Now it's Emmerich's turn to play ball. Yeah. Otherwise, he's gone.
I would say so. Now, you alluded to one of the other big things that could have a huge effect on this, especially AT&T bought Warner Brothers.
Yes,
and
so
who knows exactly what that's going to do, how that's all going to play out. I certainly hope it means Warner gets its freaking act together, because Warner's been a mess for years.
Yes, it has.
It has been a horrible, and I don't mean just the DC universe. I mean, in general, Warner's a mess. It has not been able to. It has not been able to get its act together. It used to be the Pepsi to the Pepsi to Disney's Coke, but now it's like the RC to Disney's Coke.
Yeah, and people have been saying, look, Sujihara is a bean counter, and his relationships with filmmakers it's long known throughout the studio that Sujihara was terrible with filmmakers, with creators. Because he was like a clear bean counter. He just wanted the easy buck. And as a result, that's why he made so many of those stupid little mistakes, like constantly compromising these movies just to get more screenings, and it's so dumb. And finally, like, and finally, like JJ says, look, if you want me in, you got to get this idiot out of here. He's destroying your image with that whole like casting couch incident, and B, look, I don't want to work under some jerk who's going to tell me to slash and hack and dice my movie to get more screenings. Get him out of here. Okay, JJ, he's gone.
Yeah, because you know what's going to get you more screenings? A good movie.
Yeah, and honestly, these people had no excuse to cut 30 minutes out of BVS because look, the theatrical cuts of Lord of the Rings were 3 hours each. And that was under New Line. And New Line, of course, is coming in to help run the DCU because like Walter Amada, David Sandberg, James Wan. So seriously, they have no real excuse. Really, the only thing that was holding it back is pride. Is pride because having to admit that we screwed up.
But like you said, now it's a whole new cast of people that are in leadership at Warner Brothers. So it really pride isn't a factor at this point.
No, it's not anymore.
You know, the people who would have to do the admitting, they're gone. The new people are like, we're the new guys. We're here to take this ship, freaking do reverse Poseidon adventure on it, and we're gonna flip the sucker up and get her going again.
And who better? And who better to do that than J.J. Abrams? Because that's what he's known for at this point, being given franchises that have fallen apart and steering and getting the ship back on course. Like he did that with Mission Impossible. He did that with Star Trek.
He did that with Mission Impossible. I think that's unquestionable.
Yes. Now, here's the thing. Now, you could say what you want about Star Wars, but is that more due to Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy than it is to JJ? Because
Kathleen Kennedy, although there were a lot of mixed reviews on Force Awakens as well, just for being essentially a fanfic of A New Hope, which is fair, but at the same
you almost kind of needed. You almost kind of need. JJ almost kind of needed to do that to emphasize we're returning Star Wars to its roots.
Right. Honestly, I didn't have a problem with that. I pretty much said, it's got a lot in common with A New Hope, and it kind of needed that as a reset. Although I would have gone with something different than a Super Death Star.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I know. I
would not have done that.
Nah, but I get that. But it's like, and I'll say, like, as a guy who's been a Star Trek fan since childhood, I actually really dug what he did with Star Trek. I even liked, Star Trek Into Darkness more than I liked Star Trek Beyond. Like Star Trek Beyond, I watched it and it was like, meh, it was entertaining, but whatever. But Into Darkness,
Darkness, I did not like for a number of reasons. Mostly, I thought several of the plot points were kind of like what. The one that really sticks in mind was he's super genius Khan and everything, and the only way that he could figure out how to free. I'm fuzzy on remembering all the details, to be honest, but the only way that he could think of to free his fellow super genius beings and everything was to smuggle them out in torpedoes.
Yeah, I know, but still, I mean,
how?
But still, I mean, yeah. But still, I mean, like because like his original JJ Star Trek, the one that came out in 2009, like that was still like I really got a kick out of that film, and I really felt, and speaking for myself as a Star Trek fan, after years of Star Trek fans being kind of looked down upon, people looking down their nose at us like, you Trekkies and all that, JJ made it cool to be a Star Trek fan again. And people who had mocked me came up to me after that movie came out and apologized, which is like, thank you, JJ, so much. So I can't really fault.
He did reinvigorate.
I can't really fault him.
He reinvigorated that franchise, and some of the casting was fantastic. Like, I mean, everybody loves Carl Urban, has DeForest Kelly, and for a dang good reason. He's utterly perfect. He honestly, if someone had told me that Aomer was going to play a perfect Dr. McCoy, I would have told them they were full of utter crap. but he was utterly amazing. He was like,
Yes.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
clearly,
Like, damn it, I don't need
a seance, and he's possessed by the.
And I love. Yeah, it's like his first line. Damn it, I don't need a doctor. I am a doctor. It's like, boom, that's DeForest Kelly. And it's like, and we get the origins of Bones and everything. But but one thing I love about how JJ approaches reinvigorating franchises is that he does not believe in hard reboots. Whenever possible, he keeps the pre-established cast. Now, obviously, he had to bring in a new cast for Star Trek because the original series, but he still had Leonard Nimoy, and he emphasized that the original timeline still existed. It was just a separate timeline and all that good stuff. But Mission Impossible, he kept Tom Cruise, he kept Vig Rhames, he kept the crew that Ethan Hunt put together. With Star Wars, he kept the original cast. They're just the older generation passing the torch, which means, and that was the first indication that I so want it to be J.J. Abrams to direct Man of Steel 2 because he would keep, we know from that past experience with him that he would keep the original cast. And also, way back when J.J. did like a treatment of Superman, that Superman flyby. Now, it never became a movie, but it was this close to becoming a movie, but they pulled the plug on it. But, sorry. But it's worth noting, Henry Cavill was a finalist to be Superman for Superman Flyby. He was close enough that he actually did a suit test.
That's interesting.
They ultimately went with Matt Bomer, but you know who they picked for Lois Lane? Amy Adams. Yes,
nice.
That was the final choice. It was Matt Bomer and Amy Adams were going to be the Superman and Lois for Superman Flyby, but Henry Cavill was the finalist. So with all that in mind, if J.J. Abrams comes in and he's like, okay, well, and Warner Brothers, they need some new life injected into the DCEU. They need some, and especially with Superman, with Man of Steel, because of all because they've been really dragging their feet with Man of Steel. They need some new blood, and they need a guarantee that it's going to go big. And J.J. Abrams doing it would be that guarantee. And because of his past track record, he would keep Henry and Amy and Lawrence Fishburne and all the rest. And he would do it. I mean, and it's worth noting, by the way, it seemed at a few months for last year or so that Henry Cavill was kind of stoked for Chris McQuarrie to do Superman. And then someone asked Chris McQuarrie, hey, has Warner Brothers called you up to do Superman? And he said no, and they never will. And we were like, whoa, why so certain, man? But what if the reason he's so certain is because Warner Brothers already told him that someone else is doing Man of Steel 2?
Yeah,
J.J. Abrams, baby.
It's a fair bet that either he was quite open to somebody that he wanted nothing to do with it, or somebody said it's like, yeah, dude, they're bringing in this other dude. Yeah,
and it can't be the first one because. Yeah, it can't be the first one because Chris McQuarrie himself said he would love to do it, but obviously, they passed him. But I will say this: with Chris McQuarrie not doing Man of Steel 2, it's possible that they did go to him for something else. Because honestly, the fact that he and Tom Cruise are doing the next two Mission Impossibles back to back, it comes across like a perfect grand finale to the Mission Impossible franchise, almost as if Tom Cruise is ready to move on to another franchise with Chris McQuarrie. Something like Green Lantern Corps, maybe? Because let's be honest, if we're going, the DCU has been cut ever since from Man of Steel on, they've been really taking a lot from the 90s comics. And in the 90s, Hal Jordan is kind of going gray. So, and we've been hearing that Green Lantern Corps was going to go with an older Hal Jordan as the older veteran mentoring John Stewart. So, and let's be perfectly honest, look at Top Gun. Maverick essentially is Hal Jordan, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes.
Would Tom Cruise not be perfect for an older veteran Hal Jordan? Let's be honest.
I hate to say it, but yes.
There you go.
Crystal, you're younger. Have you seen Top Gun?
I I haven't seen it, but I know of it.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all,
My-
you need to see it because this is a quintessentially 80s movie. It is
Yeah.
80s movie par excellence. And
Yeah. It's one of my dad's favorite. It's one of my dad's favorite movies back in the day. And and there was a time when I was a kid, he would take it from the library. We would watch it over and over and over again. So I got it as like, I feel the need.
The need.
The need
Yes.
for speed.
So, but yeah, Crystal, he's essentially an extremely talented, extremely arrogant fighter pilot, and that's Hal Jordan.
Yes.
He's a bit of a playboy. He's extremely arrogant. He's also ridiculously talented. Pretty much, he has something of a requirement for the Green Lantern, or for at least the Green Lantern Corps. He's pretty much fearless, and he's
very much.
He would actually be a really good fit. The only thing I would be wondering about is, okay, how would they integrate an older veteran Hal Jordan into the continuity? Because obviously he was nowhere to be seen during BVS and Man of Steel. I mean, Man of Steel was kind of
he was probably on OA during all that time.
Quite possibly, but still, Man of Steel, the way that whole thing played out, it was very much humanity's introduction to this sort of thing. It wasn't like, oh yeah, Superman. He's kind of like that green guy that was flying around a couple of years ago.
Yeah, maybe. But I will say, oddly enough, there is a character in Man of Steel and BVS. Remember the girl, the major that's next to that general who thinks that Superman's kind of cute? If you look at the credits, it's Carol Ferris.
I was going to say, is that Ferris?
That's Carol Ferris. That girl that said nothing, sir, I just think he's kind of hot. That's Carol Ferris.
That's interesting.
There's Star Sapphire. That's Star Sapphire.
Oh.
Because Zack Snyder would do that. He would put in these little hints and stuff of a bigger universe going forward.
Right.
So
I can't see that girl being Carol Ferris, but he's also easily ignorable.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But
they may bring in like a bigger actress who kind of looks like her, but still. Like
Yeah.
I've said before I realized that was Carol Ferris, I was thinking, you know what? Screw it. Let's bring in some more folks from Mission Impossible franchise. Michelle Moynihan as Carol Ferris. Why not?
Yeah, I could see. I could totally see that.
Yeah, and Michelle and the girl that's in Man of Steel and BVS, she kind of looks. Yeah, and the girl in Man of Steel and BVS, she kind of looks enough like a Michelle Moynihan to play a good like Carol Ferris. Just that Michelle could play Carol Ferris, kind of, sorta. Yeah, she's short, but whatever. Yeah, we could work around that. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, then again, so is Tom Cruise, so I guess it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it's Tom Cruise. Like, there you go. There you go. They're short, but they can do it.
Common size, so what's height got to do with it, I suppose?
Yeah. And by the way, like, since we last talked, like, we were like, there was such an uncertainty about where the DCU was going forward. And one of the questions was, is Ezra Miller still going to be Flash, or are they going to reboot that? But one of the things is that we just heard, like, Variety just let slip this interesting little thing that's like, after Ezra Miller's done with the next Fantastic Beasts movie, they're going to make the new Flash. It's like, whoa, there you go. And supposedly, Ezra Miller, like, he was kind of dissatisfied with how the script was going for the Flash movie, so he brought in Grant Morrison to write a version of the script. Grant Morrison, how great is that?
He's a hell of a writer.
Yeah, Grant Morrison.
Has he done any screenplay work before? I mean, he's great in comics, but
I don't know. I don't think so, but it's still interesting. Like, Ezra Miller is like kind of writing it with him, supposedly, but there you go. I mean, and it really comes across like when that news story broke that Grant Morrison was writing a draft of the Flash script, there was this talk from unnamed reliable sources that Ezra Miller's contract was almost expired. It was like, wait a minute, contracts can do that. This is the first I heard of it. I mean, Hugo Weaving still has a contract with the MCU. I mean, like, and even though he's not working with them, he still has that contract. So
I
what's
mean,
this?
I guess it depends on the contract, right? I suppose they could easily write it so that
I suppose
it doesn't. I'm sure maybe Marvel Studios is like, you know what, you owe us an appearance in 6 movies. I don't care if it takes 15 years to get there. Okay, fine, I'll sign that.
Yeah, but he's free to go. I mean, they brought in some new guy to do a Hugo Weaving impression for Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame, but still, which means there's no hard feelings between them. Says, hey, if you want to go, you're free to go. We won't hold you to this contract, but whatever.
Yeah, especially since I'm sure they were like, okay, it's Hugo Weaving. He's kind of a name. He got like $1 million or something for voicing Megatron.
Yeah,
so,
which is why they brought back the other guy.
Yeah, it's like it's going to be a lot of money just to have him in this movie for 45 seconds.
Yeah, but regardless, like, I guess they worked it out. I guess Warner Brothers and Ezra Miller seem to have worked it out, if that report's to be believed, that after Fantastic Beasts, like, he's going to come back as Flash. So that's good. And Grant Morrison writing the script.
For those who don't know, Grant Morrison, he has worked on Justice League. In fact, his run back in the late 90s is actually one of my favorite runs of comic books. Period. Especially especially the opening storyline was really well done.
Yeah. Now, I mean, they seem to be bringing in quite a few names from the comics lately. Like Jim Lee is co-running the DCU with Walter Hamada.
Really?
And yeah, Jim Lee. Like Jim Lee's like the number 2 guy. Pierre Safran is like the number 3 guy, but Jim Lee's number 2. And Jim Lee supposedly helped Zack Snyder lay out the 5-part arc. The 5-part arc, like his plan for the DCU, like Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League 1, Justice League 2, and whatever part 5 is. I think it's Flashpoint, but we talked about that last time.
Right, yeah.
But
I'll be curious because, I mean, they had Jeff Johns essentially running the DCU for a while, at least in name. Yeah. I don't know if that was, I don't know how much truth there was to that, if he was really in charge of anything or not. But
but the thing is,
his reign has not gone terribly well.
Yeah, it did not go that well at all. And Jeff Johns is supposed, if the stories are to be believed, it was Jeff Johns that alienated Ben Affleck enough to like say, I'm done with the DCU. Supposedly, because what happened was Ben Affleck, like the WB wanted Ben Affleck, says, hey, while you're here, why don't you star in and direct the Batman? He says, yeah, I'm game to do it. And they were writing it. They brought in Jeff Johns to write it with him. And at first, Ben Affleck was saying, going pretty well. Remember, Jay Oliva said, like the great Jay Oliva, who had directed the animated Dark Knight Returns and Flashpoint Paradox, all that good stuff. He looked at the script and said, this is the best Batman script I've ever read that Ben Affleck's given us. But what happened was when they appointed Jeff Johns head of the DCU, suddenly he started demanding all these changes. Like he wanted the Vision thing to compete with Kevin Feige. He wanted the Vision thing, and that was real. And he was like demanding all these changes to the Batman and to Justice League and all that. And supposedly like Batfleck was like, I'm out. This is it. I don't want to deal with this. So he's out, and then Matt Reeves is in. But regardless, so Warner Brothers, like as part of all like most of the different saboteurs are gone. Jeff Johns essentially been demoted, and he's writing. Supposedly, last we heard, he was writing the script for Green Lantern Corps, which is good because Jeff Johns is a good writer, and he's great with Green Lantern. So there you go. Now he's
known for his Green Lantern work in particular.
Yeah, exactly. So he's doing Green Lantern Corps, but Jim Lee is now helping run the DCU, and Zack Snyder went on Vero and called and referred to Jim Lee as the best, which means he's excited about Jim Lee. So maybe we should be too. So Jim Lee is co-running the DCU. Grant Morrison is writing Flash. Ava DuVernay brought on Tom King to write New Gods, which is interesting. Now, here's the thing. Supposedly, he wrote a good Mr. Miracle, which means if Ava DuVernay's New Gods is going to be about Mr. Miracle and Big Barda and their storyline, like leaving Apocalypse, then fair enough. Of course, what he's known for nowadays is the super depressed Batman who got dumped at the altar by Catwoman. So I don't know. Seriously,
That was
I don't know.
a storyline and a half there, Crystal.
Huh?
Yeah,
That was a fun storyline and a half, from what I heard. I didn't read it.
yeah, yeah. Like there was all this build up. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's all
Bats
this
and
build up
Catwoman-
to the wedding album.
Yeah. They were finally, Bats and Catwoman were finally going to tie the knot,
Mhm.
and then like they've been flirting on and off like for the last freaking 40 years in comics, and there
was, and now
Joker,
like
the
talking.
Joker talks Catwoman out of it.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it was like the problem is, and look, and I would be fine with that. It's just there was so much build up to them tying the knot to the point where they were calling that issue the wedding album, which refers to, of course, the legendary comic in the 90s where Clark and Lois finally tie the knot. So they were building it up so much, and then they yanked the rug out. And ever since then, Tom King has been writing Batman as depressed.
Honestly, though, like, there's really no other way to end the Catwoman and Batman storyline because it's like. Anyway, I feel like I should mention, guys, we are at that time.
We are.
Yeah.
So, to wrap things up, I think we know where we see the Snyder Cut going. I think at this point we pretty much expect it to be released in some shape or form.
Yeah.
It's how long it takes.
Absolutely.
Depends on the form.
Yeah.
Where do you see the DCEU going now? We've got a number of films that are coming out. Let's see here. There's Birds of Prey. It is well in production. Wonder Woman 1984 is coming out.
Yep.
Later this year.
Next year. Yeah.
Next year. What was that, Crystal?
Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah, Suicide Squad 2 by James Gunn, which is interesting.
That's in the works. And then Joker with
Elseworlds Joker. Yeah, Elseworlds Joker. Yeah.
So
and then after
where that's going to go, I think that's the one real wild card in this.
Yeah, that's going to be the wild card, and that'll be interesting. But again, it's an Elseworlds thing, so it won't affect it moving forward. I am intrigued by it. I really am. I just find it very weird that it's a middle-aged Joker when Thomas Wayne is still alive. And there's that quick moment in the trailers where it's like he's pushing up the mouth to make a kid who's presumably young Bruce Wayne smile, which is a nice little nod.
Right.
Smile for me, Brucey, and all that. But I don't know. Like I'm intrigued by where it's going to go moving forward. I mean, they still said like they still got Shazam 2 on the agenda. They've got a writer for The Rock, and certainly for Black Adam, and certainly which by the way means Black Adam is like The Rock is still part of the DCU, even though he's talking about doing something for Marvel. He's still with the DCU. He's still Black Adam. He's still there. Therefore, his agent is still there. His agent is Henry Cavill's agent. Henry Cavill is still doing movies for Warner Brothers, like that Sherlock Holmes movie we just heard. Henry Cavill's still Superman. No one's. I would be. It's got to be like that. Like putting all that together, he's still Superman. But again, I'm still pretty hopeful. I'm looking forward to an announcement soon that J.J. Abrams will do Man of Steel 2. Maybe Chris McQuarrie doing Green Lantern Corps, and I'm intrigued. I am looking forward to Matt Reeves' Batman, what we've been hearing, because as interesting as it is that Edward from Twilight is the new Batman, he looks enough like a young Batfleck to be passable. And if it is set in the 90s, then it could work. I think it would be a glorious joke if Kristen Stewart played Selena Kyle. If she played Catwoman.
No.
Oh man. Admit it. Just the meme. Batcat. Still a better love story than Twilight. A better love story than Twilight. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it.
I could not watch that movie if Kristen Stewart was in it. Like Robert Pattinson, from what I hear, and other movies outside of Twilight, he ain't the worst. So I'll give him a pass. But Kristen, no.
I don't know. I actually heard that Kristen Stewart, outside of that, is actually a good actress.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it myself because I haven't seen any of her movies.
All I know is
Mm.
all I know is looking at her, she looks catty enough to play Selena. I don't know.
She could.
I know is
It'd
I
be
would
fantastic. I'll give you that.
like I would be all for her being cast just to get the just to enjoy to grab some popcorn and enjoy everyone's reaction. This is just to watch the whole internet blow up in reaction to that.
I don't know if that's
It
pure
would
genius
just be
or pure evil, but
I don't know. It's evil genius. Who knows?
all right. I think that's going to about wrap things up. Hopefully, we're going to see a Snyder Cut in the near future, and I definitely think that I think the DCEU has. I think it has hit its bottom. And,
Yes, it absolutely is.
And I think it's definitely going to be on its way up. Hopefully, filling a void left by forthcoming missteps from Marvel. And although I want both. I want both to be great.
So do I.
Let me be clear. I don't want Marvel to fail so DC can succeed. I want both to be fantastic. And because I'm a comic nerd and I want to see all of the great comic book movies. But
yes,
in any case, if Marvel does misstep, I think the DCEU will be in a place to fill those shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should.
In any case, Eric, thanks a lot for coming on. And,
thanks for having me on.
If we hear anything else, we're definitely going to have you back on to discuss it and celebrate whatever it is that's happening. And until then, everybody, thanks for tuning in. It's good to be back. And until next week, keep fighting the good fight.